welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about the 1984 classic horror film, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and its brand new Warner Brothers 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if by chance you haven't seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, please make sure you guys skip ahead to that 4K Blu-ray review right now. And I just did a full breakdown of the movie actually with David aka Shamrock Balls, so this review will be a little bit quicker. We'll probably just hit some bullet points, mainly because if you want to see a full breakdown of the film, check that video out. So this movie was released in 1984, directed by Wes Craven, one of the greatest horror directors of all time. He is definitely on the Mount Rushmore, up there with the John Carpenters of the world. And he gave us 3 classic horror films in 3 different decades. In the 1970s, he gave us The Last House on the Left. In the 1990s, he gave us Scream. But his best film that he ever directed, in my opinion, came out in 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street. This is the movie that made New Line Cinema a household name. Before this, Bob Shaye, who was the creator and owner of New Line Cinema at the time, you know, he was just a guy selling movies out of his car. You know, he just put all of the money he possibly could into this one, tried to get some funding for this movie because he believed in A Nightmare on Elm Street when nobody else did. And, you know, of course, he had to sign on Wes Craven, who, you know, at the very beginning, it was shaky if he was going to even direct because they didn't know if they were going to get funding for it. They had everyone lined up. They even had Wes lined up. But, you know, getting the money secured, eventually Bob Shaye did get the money secured. And thankfully for us, they made A Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie stars Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger would eventually become one of the most iconic characters of all time, especially through the 1980s. I would argue people recognize Freddy Krueger like they would recognize Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. You can always pull out Freddy Krueger, and obviously he's part of the big 3 of the slasher villains, along with Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. In my opinion, I think Freddy Krueger is the best of them, mainly because the guy can talk. You know, without Robert Englund being a world-class actor, you know, this character could have felt like just like Jason or Michael Myers, where you have the stuntman playing it. No, you bring in a real actor who's at the time most known for the show V, and it's funny because he shared an apartment with Mark Hamill, and actually Robert Englund went and auditioned for Luke Skywalker and then recommended Mark Hamill as roommate, and he'd have to wait a few more years before he got his big break. But just like Mark Hamill, who's really just known for being Luke Skywalker, a lot of us know him for the Joker. Most people know Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. They just talked to him and he said he's probably never going to be able to play the role again. He might be able to do an animated show, but that is it. And that's unfortunate for a lot of us because Robert Englund, he is definitely Freddy Krueger. When they tried to do that 2010 remake, which is god awful, you know, one of the big reasons why it didn't work is because you just lost that charismatic nature that is Robert Englund. You know, if you go back to the 1980s, if you just look at this one in a bubble, you know, it's a much more reserved performance than we would get when we get to A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. For me, the franchise turns right when we get the scene.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
When he says that, that's it. Freddy is now a completely different character than we get in A Nightmare on Elm Street 1, where he is absolutely petrifying. This movie also has Heather Langenkamp as the final girl, and they set this movie up very different. You know, at the very beginning, we think it's going to be Tina, but no, she dies pretty early in the movie in an iconic scene with the room that's flipping over and her on the ceiling. And then we kind of switch it to Heather Langenkamp's Nancy being our main character, and she's got to be the one who's going to take down Freddy. This movie also features Johnny Depp in his first movie role, which also features an iconic kill. The score to this movie is fantastic. It's shot beautifully. You wouldn't expect this movie to be made on such a low budget, but it was, and that's what really brings out the creativity of this film. And A Nightmare on Elm Street is actually the movie that got me into horror. I just remember going to Blockbuster, me, my brother, and my cousins, and renting this movie. I was actually in Vegas at the time, and this is the movie that got me into horror. Everybody was petrified of this movie. I've never really been scared of horror movies, but this is the movie where I really wanted to go back in and just dive into the horror genre even more. And going to Blockbuster, renting all the sequels, you know, you can kind of just see that even as a kid and not really knowing who Wes Craven was, but you know, you go down the sequels and you can just progressively see them getting worse. But still, I really enjoyed all those sequels, and I enjoy the franchise as a whole, but nothing compares to the original Nightmare on Elm Street film. And a lot of that's just because of Wes Craven. You know, Wes Craven did not have any involvement with any more Nightmare films except for Dream Warriors until 1994's A New Nightmare, and that really is kind of bringing back that old-fashioned scary feeling like the original film, where it kind of becomes almost like Looney Looney Tunes by the time we get to Freddy's Dead. And I really enjoy Freddy's Dead, but if you want to really see a great horror movie in a bubble, definitely check out A Nightmare on Elm Street if by chance you haven't seen it. But if you have, let's talk about this brand new Warner Brothers 4K Blu-ray that just came out.
Hey, Nancy! No running in the hallway.
Well, here it is, A Nightmare on Elm Street on 4K Blu-ray. I opted to just get the standard version. I was gonna get that steelbook, but then I kind of saw what other people were saying about it, and I saw some videos of people doing unboxings, and I switched over to the regular old-fashioned slipcover version. Now, this isn't a perfect slipcover. I really wish they would have just used the original cover art for this, but Warner Brothers, for some reason, refuses to do that with any of their releases, and they just seem to find a way to pick the worst artwork, especially here in the United States, because the UK actually is getting a beautiful collector's edition, just like The Exorcist that came out last year, while here in the United States we kind of got shafted and you either have this option or the steelbook option, and either or I do not think is perfect, but if I have to pick one, I pick the slipcover version. And this will be replacing my Nightmare on Elm Street that is in this box set that includes all of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. But this box set, surprisingly, the Blu-ray that's in there is very well done, and the DTS HD Master Audio is still really good, so I was curious to see how much of an upgrade this 4K Blu-ray would be. So when you come underneath here, you get the same artwork underneath. Again, not loving that artwork, but it's fine. One disc set. That's a little bit disappointing, but that's always, of course, Warner Brothers' MO lately. They're not going to do the pack-in Blu-ray, which is, again, very, very disappointing. So all of your extras are going to be on that 4K Blu-ray, and there's no new extras on there. You get 2 audio commentary tracks. You're going to get the house that Freddy built talking about New Line Cinema. And then you're going to have one little 15-minute, I think it's called Wes's Nightmares. And then you also get a bunch of little featurettes, so like alternate takes of certain shots, like Freddy cutting his fingers off. You'll get alternate takes of that. You'll have the alternate endings as well. All stuff that's been released in the past, so none of this is new, and that's what's really disappointing. That's the big difference between Warner Brothers and a boutique label. If a boutique label got their hands on this, imagine Scream Factory got their hands on this. We could have gotten so much more. We probably would have gotten plenty of new interviews, but because it's a major studio like Warner Brothers, a lot like last year when we got Enter the Dragon, a classic film that so many people love, and they just cheaped out on it just because they know people are going to buy it. People like me who love A Nightmare on Elm Street just want to see if it's a big upgrade to the visuals and audio, so you kind of give a pass to the extras, but it is just very disappointing to see a major studio like Warner Brothers, who has this property that is so beloved by so many people, and to just see them not even put any extra love into the extras, like maybe some new interviews or some looking backs or a new documentary looking back, even though there is an amazing Nightmare on Elm Street documentary out there that looks at the entire franchise as a whole, Never Sleep Again. That's the definitive documentary, but it just would have been cool, 40 years later, this film that made such a mark on horror, it would have just been so nice to get more looking back on it and just get some new interviews. It would have been really cool, and they probably could have done it, but of course it's Warner Brothers, and they just care about money more than they actually care about the people out there buying their films. So it's a little bit disappointing in that sense, but again, I know not everybody cares about the extras, so I had to do my little extra rant here because I just wish there was more when it comes to that. But you're here for the audio and video quality, and luckily we did get a brand new Dolby Atmos track that is actually better than that DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 that is on here as well. But I did think that old DTS Master Audio was pretty damn good, so I was surprised to see that this Dolby Atmos does actually really improve on it. It's a pretty damn good Dolby Atmos track. Again, like most Dolby Atmos track from a 1984 film, it's not going to be the greatest, but it's still really good, well mixed. There was definitely some love and care put into this Dolby Atmos track. You'll feel some audio moving around the room. I love the score to this movie. I also really love the sound design of this movie, so this is one that I imagine would be really good in Dolby Atmos, and luckily for us, they definitely did a pretty damn good job with this. Those stings in the score come in loud and clear. Everything comes in crisp and clear. There is no pops or anything, but of course that was to be expected because the old audio track didn't have any of that, so you just want to see how they were able to upgrade the audio, and they did a really good job with it. And then that brings us to the visuals. Now this is a Warner Brothers release, so that means it's only HDR10. There is going to be no Dolby Vision, and if this looks like your standard Warner Brothers release, where the colors become more vivid, more dynamic, you can really see the reds and greens on Freddy's sweatshirt, Nancy's shirt that she's wearing early in the movie, it's like this pink and blue. You can actually notice the materials on it now, but it's not a perfect 4K transfer because it just does feel like the regular Warner Brothers 4K Blu-ray releases, where, they maintain the film grain, but you can clearly see that there was definitely some DNR done to, reduce the noise, reduce some of that film grain. And I know that's going to upset some people, but they did still maintain a layer of film grain. So if you're watching it, you're like, okay, there's some grain there, but they definitely went in there and they touched some things up. Really, what's most noticeable is the brightness increase and the colors. The colors are just much more noticeable now. They're much more vivid. They're going to pop off your screen a lot more. There's a lot of red in this movie, but it doesn't become a different movie. Luckily, they didn't change the color temperature of the movie. They didn't change the tone of it. That way, it still feels like a Nightmare on Elm Street, just kind of with new life brought into it. And that's all I can really ask for a 4K Blu-ray from Warner Brothers. It's not something that knocked my socks off like I really wish it would. You kind of have to taper your expectations when it comes to a studio release compared to a boutique label. You're not going to get the same love and care. All you hope is that it's an upgrade over the previous release, and I can honestly say, even though that old Blu-ray that's out there is still pretty damn good, this new 4K Blu-ray definitely does improve on it. It just might not be the biggest jump that a lot of people were hoping for, but overall, I'm still pretty damn happy with this release of Nightmare on Elm Street. Would have liked more extras, just would have liked a little bit more love put into this one, because it is one of those special horror films that I know so many people out there care about, so it would have just been nice to get a little bit more TLC with this one, but still, I can't knock it completely. It's still a very good 4K Blu-ray release, just would have liked a little bit more. So how would I rate this one on a score of 1 to 10? I would give a Nightmare on Elm Street's 4K Blu-ray an alright 8 out of 10. And guys, it's also Tuesday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video that we do on Friday, I ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you had to do was answer one of those in the comment section below. And as long as you did that, you came back to this video right here, I put your name on a magic wheel. I spin that wheel 2 times. The 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. So guys, without further ado, let's see who this week's 2 lucky winners are. Alright, congratulations, James Bond Fanatic, and to the Blu-ray Hunter Searcher, and we'll say Holes as well, because that was right on the line. So there's 3 winners this week, so all you guys know how this works. Reach out to me in my email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com, or you can always reach out to me at the artist formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And just let me know which of the digital codes you want, and as long as the other winner didn't take it, that digital code is all yours. And if you guys didn't win, don't forget to come back to this Friday's video where we'll do this all over again. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, we have channel memberships, guys, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or a channel director like Mr. Smelly Potato and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, you can look for all that information in the description below. And you know what? If you got no money to throw away, guys, we really don't mind at all. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.